Got a mission for all of you out there. I'm going to give you a scavenger hunt. Ready for a scavenger hunt? A little Easter egg hunt preview? I'd like you all to seek out anyone calling TJ Watt a diva.
Ooh.
Or Trey Hendrickson.
Seconds.
You sure about that? Because if he were a wide receiver, it'd be all over the television 24 hours a day.
Oh, okay, right.
But he's not. So we don't do that. TJ Watt wants a new contract. Okay.
You're right. I searched TJ Watt diva, and it's really not. There's nothing. There's really nothing. It's more about, like, actually the first thing I saw was, how come George Pickens gets called a diva, but we're not going to call TJ Watt a diva?
That's pretty much how it goes. That's the NFL cycle.
Yeah.
Receivers get called divas, nobody else does. I mean, James Cook maybe a little bit here because he also went social media. So, good morning, Jeremy and Joe. So that's Ian Rappaport. Tom Pelissero had an interesting point here on the Steelers. And we could talk about whether or not the Bills should try to trade for TJ Watt. I don't think it's very likely at all. Of course they should, but I don't. The Steelers are. Mike Tomlin, if you ever brought up the idea of, hey, Mike, how about we take our medicine this year because we don't have a starting quarterback, he would throw you out of the room and say the standard is the standard and win 9 games, is what he would do.
Yep.
And get blown out in the playoffs in the first round by 35, and then they would do it again next year. That's what the Steelers do all the time. Mm-hmm. Tom Pelissero pointed out that Cam Hayward has expressed his frustration about the Steelers offseason, and that there's basically a bit of a tone around the Steelers of what are we doing exactly here? Mm-hmm. Mason Rudolph is QB1, and we're waiting to see if Aaron Rodgers is going to decide to do this.
Right.
Tom Pelissero says he's heard others within the Steelers locker room are feeling frustrated. Quote, from everything I've been told, it's not solely Cam Howard. There are other people, certainly in the organization, the locker room, who are just going like, what are we doing? We're back for off-season workouts in 10 days. We're coming up on the draft. What's the plan? That's inside the Steelers locker room because, of course, what is the plan?
Yeah.
And here's TJ Watt, who Myles Garrett got his huge contract. Watt is every bit as good, 1B, 1A, 1B, depending who you ask. There's some advanced stats that put Watt right there in this conversation with Garrett. If he's not number 2, I don't know who is. If he's not Robin to his Batman, I don't know who is. Watt's a game wrecker.
Yeah.
An absolute game wrecker. So he wants $38 million a year? 39? 40,
at least
42
at least. Right, I was gonna say at least right below Garrett because it would be realistic to think he would be asking for the same as Garrett, or even more than Garrett. I think at least the same though. Isn't a lot of that locker room stuff though about Pittsburgh more just about the quarterback?
Yes, but
than it is about Watt. I mean, Watt factors into it too for sure, but especially with Rodgers being the guy on the other side, like. What are we doing? We are waiting to see if the guy that didn't work with the New York Jets is going to come here.
And our guy went to the Jets.
Right.
Just
like that organization that's the most dysfunctional in the league, it didn't work with him there, and we're going to pick up their scraps? Like that might be a mentality of that, and that's what we're waiting on. So that would be to me where it all starts, is what's the plan? Because if you're Cam Hayward, especially, or Watt even, you've been on this team for years now, and every year you could be asking yourself, what's the plan at quarterback, especially the most important position.
Especially if you're a defensive player and you're one of those two, you're Watt or Hayward. We are elite at our position.
And have been for a long time.
Yes, we are carrying the load for this franchise that is just stuck in the mud, always in the same spot, celebrating wild card spots or 9-win seasons. So I mean,
I'm sure Watt would still stay there if they paid him the $40 million a year or right around that. But we'll see. Pittsburgh has done things differently in the past, right? They changed how they did things with guaranteed contracts and when they pay guys with TJ Watt. Like, they prioritized him and did do things different than what they're accustomed to because they valued him that much. But that's when he was, 26 years old. How much do they value him now? With a contract coming up? I mean, if they are trying to lowball him by league standards and trying to get him at like 30, low 30s, per year. It would depend how far apart they are, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
And whether you could believe that Pittsburgh would be less likely than Cleveland to go, we're going to give him all the money to make sure that there's no risk of a trade here.
The Steelers are never a team to really take their medicine and rebuild. It's part of the Tomlin identity that they don't really do that, right?
Right.
They don't fire coaches. They don't have a coaching tree. They really are this.
It's such a weird
it's a
organization.
Yes, it's a very odd plan that they have there. They do win all the time. I mean, relatively, their winning has dropped quite a bit, and
they don't. They win. Right. They win
mediocrely. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So the idea that they would trade him, I find far-fetched. Should the Bills do it? Of course. Can they afford it? Well, you need to create $21 million in cap space with a bunch of moves, and then you can extend him. And to that point, they definitely have room. It's one of the things that, the Eagles model we've learned about: pay everybody, backload it, move it all. Could they find a way? Of course they could. They could do it. But the hardest part would be giving up the compensation and then creating $21 million in cap space to make it happen, unless there's like a sign-in trade, and those things get all, I don't know, complicated.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But they could do. Greg Thompson has said, Cover One, that if they'd have to do a couple of things they wouldn't want to do to get to this number, but they theoretically could open $50 million in cap space whenever they want. Again, you'd have to extend some guy, or not even extend some guys. You'd have to restructure some guys that you probably don't want to restructure. Dawson Knox, I think, is on that list. There are others. But if you needed to do it, you could. There might be a little bit of medicine that you have to take to be able to get
this player.
Yeah. But you could do it. And he's great. And he's 30. He's not 35.
Game record.
He's 3-4 years younger than Von Miller was when they got him. And they've been desperate for this position in the past. The only thing I would wonder about Watt or Hendrickson is their signing of Joey Bosa preventative, or do they think, well, we already signed the Bosa contract. If we were going to go all in on a big name like that, then we would have wanted to do that before.
Well, maybe they didn't know they could do that before, which is also where we got to last year on, Brandon Ayuk, where could they have been interested, and then it looked like they weren't going to move him, and they didn't ultimately move him. Watt last year, where did he rank in the NFL's top 100? I know the NFL.
TJ Watt?
Yeah. I know the NFL top 100 is not the perfect measure. But for me.
No, it's just players voting.
It's players voting on who the best players are. But for me, that's what I'm shooting for if I'm Brandon Beane of the Bills. I got to find my way to elite players. We kind of got into this yesterday. The idea of trading down. The only way trading down makes sense to me, Joe, is if you're doing it for more kicks at the can to find elite players, not for more good depth players that you're going to have to cut or say goodbye to or try to sneak through on the practice squad. We bring up Watt, and any trade offer you hear somebody calling in with is like, well, how about a first and Epinesa? Epinesa is a great example. He's a player that can play, but he's not a major difference maker for you. And that doesn't mean he's worthless. He's a somewhat valuable piece. But what I'd be looking for the Bills is how many top 100 players do I get? And you can do this for the player vote or PFF or anyone you want. Where was Watt last year?
Last year he would have been top 10?
8th.
Yeah.
8th best player in the NFL according to the players.
Mm-hmm.
You got Josh Allen, by the way, who was 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So the NFL should the Bills get a player that I don't think he's actually better than Josh Allen, but should the defense get a Josh Allen? I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get the defense a Josh Allen. And that's Hendrickson is not quite that level. Where did Hendrickson
Well,
finish?
I mean, he led the league in sacks last year.
Hendrickson finished 77th on the best players in the NFL. But
all right.
Again, another top 100 guy. I want to find my way to as many of them as possible because I do think that there's a correlation between you're going to need your depth, but having great players matters. And the Eagles, how many top 100 players did they have last year? Hurts, Brown, Lane Johnson, Saquon Barkley, Hassan Reddick, Devonta Smith. Way more.
6 of them? Yeah.
Yeah, way more. The Bills are, in their transition, leaning on Allen heavily on the offense. And then defensively, this transition, we've been waiting to see who that is. Benford might see the top 100 soon. He did not last year.
I doubt he would this year, but if he puts together one more great year, then maybe you're getting to that type of recognition. Yeah, he got one AP Defensive Player of the Year vote last year.
He has a chance to get on this list of the top players in the league. Dawkins is there. Yep. I mean, Spencer Brown might have an outside shot. James Cook has a shot at this, of course, right? Like you've got, but I almost want to eliminate running backs to some degree.
But even these guys are like, even if they start to develop into more household names, star-level players, Watt, and even Hendrickson close to this. I mean, he's got 35 sacks in the last 2 years, and a lot of his advanced numbers are amazing too. Who's elite at their position? Elite, like in the conversation, is the best at what they do, because both of these guys to me are in that conversation. And even though Benford is great, but is anyone putting him number one in the league at his position? Not yet.
No.
And do we feel like he has that potential? Because even that's Cook for me. Cook is great, and Cook could be a guy that goes top 100. I'm never getting to he's the best running back in football.
Right.
Or, Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard is a really good player, and I could see him growing even more, and Pro Bowl level player. But is he going to become the best linebacker in football? Because that's what we're talking about when we talk about a Josh Allen of the defense.
Right.
Is a guy that, TJ Watt, he's the best pass rusher in the league. And it's not crazy if you say that sentence. Yeah. Whereas if I tweet out right now, Terrell Bernard's the best middle linebacker in football, I'm going to get found, and 2,000 people are going to tell me I'm an idiot. Right? And that's the difference, I think, is they have a lot of pretty good players, and even a lot of these pretty good players, like the names we just mentioned, probably have another step to grow. But I don't see a lot on the Bills roster right now that has the TJ Watt level potential or the Allen level potential.
Potential, but
potential. Guys that I could see growing into that. Like Rousseau is probably about what he's going to be, right? He's not going to become the best defensive end in the league or one of the 3 best defensive ends in the league. I mean, who would you consider is most likely to do that? Guys that we haven't seen enough of yet, right? Would you even think Kincaid is still capable of that? Like being one of the 3 best tight ends in football? Maybe he's someone I'd still be a little open to it with.
Sure.
But there are a lot of guys that are pretty good. Ed Oliver's a pretty good player. I'm closed to the idea he's going to be Aaron Donald.
It's great to have as many good players, great players.
These are good players.
But yeah, for me, and maybe it's misguided, but I feel like the offseason blue chipper idea was the idea, and that has faded. Right. A little bit. The offseason in free agency didn't bring blue chipper, unless Bosa, it's an outside shot at it. His former coach called him one of the best ever to do it, which, if he's healthy, that's something.
Yeah. There's a timing thing to this, too, for me, which is that they, with all these pretty good players, it just feels like you have this opportunity maybe to capitalize on the roster is pretty solid. There are a lot of good players all over the roster. And Bean said it this way, that he feels like you're never one player away, right? He kind of like pushed back on the idea of a final chess piece. But to me, that's how I view their roster. Yeah. I view their roster as you got a lot of good players, you got a lot of depth, you got a good program that, if you got to throw a Jamarcus Ingram in for a couple of games, it often goes pretty well at certain positions. I feel like they got a lot of things going for them. And to go back to the days after the season ended, one point that I was harping on was I don't believe there will ever be a playoff game that they go into against Kansas City where I feel like they're going to have the advantage coaching. That Reed and Spagnuolo, I have too much evidence that they're going to have things dialed up. Spags throws a play at you at the end of the season that they hadn't run all year, and you weren't ready for because they hadn't showed it. And there's always going to be certain advantages that those two guys have over me. And one thing that I said that week was, for me to finally beat them, I feel like I'm going to have a better roster. I got to be definitively better. And I really feel like they are only, it's a star-level player, but it's only one or two individuals, a star or two away from being able to really say, I have a better roster than them going into the game. And I feel like they have to have that. Yeah.
How'd you feel about the idea of trading your 2-2s for another one? Because if
I like that, in like the principle of that, I think I like. Right? Isn't it kind of the same mentality? Like
it depends on what you think the best way to get a chance at that is. The best players are taken in the first round, then the second, then the third, and it depends on the position. We've gone through quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are very likely to be taken in the first round. So are left tackles, starting left tackles, and premier pass rushers and receivers taken in the top 5 or 6. Running backs, there's more diversity.
Yeah, that would take
them. If you were to package the Bills 2 picks in the second round to see how far you could get up,
aren't they too low?
They are just about. You could package your 2 seconds to get to the top of the second. That's about where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because you got to say, what's the Bills? You have what their first second round pick is?
Yes,
like by selection.
Yes, it is 56. That's
56.
340 points.
Okay,
and their second pick is 284.
So you got to convince a team that
gets you to about. Actually, you know what that gets you to about? The 30th pick.
Okay.
The Bills should announce they're going to trade their 2 picks in the second for their own pick in the first and trade with themselves.
But you got to convince a team that they're going down from
31
to 56. Imagine if somebody came to the Bills with that offer.
Hold on.
Because these are the teams at the end. If they made that trade on draft night at our draft party, not just trading down, but trading down to the 50s, I feel like there would be a lot of unhappy people.
Well, the Bills draft. Let's get stupid. It's Friday. Let's get stupid.
It's fine.
The Bills, they come up on 30, and there are 2 players they love. Holy cow. Love these 2 guys.
Okay.
You draft. Pick your guy. Who do you want it to be? You want it to be...
how about let's go Kenneth Grant today.
Okay, Kenneth Grant. Love this guy. Got to do it. Can't not do it. All right, boom.
Defensive tackle, Michigan.
And the player they don't pick is...
Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky.
There you go. The corner. Oh, I don't know who on both these guys so bad. This would be perfect. If we got these 2, the draft is a success. Okay, take Grant. Who's up next? Give him a call. Kansas City. Perfect.
I was trying to remember if they were only 1 pick behind the Bills or if there was another team.
The Bills offer 56 and 62 for 31. In this case,
I mean, I would love it.
Me too. In this case, I would say, should the Chiefs do that? Debatable. They're not chasing the Bills, but
no, they shouldn't do it because they shouldn't do business with the Bills.
That might be right. But what if the Bills just went 30 and 31, defensive tackle corner, and then, all right, we're on to round 4.
Wait. What happened?
Because
why am I on to round 4 now?
Because you don't have your 2 seconds.
Oh, right.
And you don't have a third.
Sorry, right.
So now you're picking 30, 31, and then 109.
So I got a top-heavy draft coming my way. See, the reason I might not want to do that is because I also kind of I really want them to get a speed wide receiver, and I feel like you've just eliminated the possibility they're going to get a speed wide receiver that matters.
I think 4th round is a sweet spot for that, if they really want it. 109. They have 2 fourths.
We'd be talking about them trading multiple fourths to get into the third.
Why don't we just make it a tradition? The Bills and Chiefs trade in the draft every year. Let's keep it spicy. I don't know about trading up. When we talked to Chris Brown yesterday about it, how they always tend to move one way or another a little bit.
Yeah. Or how about was it him that gave us a stat or somebody else that? What was it? That 7?
They've only had
their last 7 draft day moves are trade downs.
Yeah, they've traded
something like that.
They've traded down more than up. They traded down twice for Cook. They trade down in the Worthy one. They trade down a couple different times. They've moved down in the later rounds. Not afraid of that.
I need, though, for me, I don't like the trade down idea at all. This is almost a year where I feel like I'm most content with just staying put because I don't like the trade down idea at all. I need a guy for that. I need a guy. Like last year, I got a guy, Rome Odunze. Fell in love with him. Like I wanted to see the Bills find a way. It was so far away, but find a way to go get him. And even Brian Thomas Jr. Like I was into that. But this year, I haven't been convinced of somebody that's worth going up 10 picks to go get.
They might.
Will Johnson from Michigan, maybe, but he doesn't often fall even near them.
And last year they might have thought there was someone worth doing that for, but they couldn't get a deal.